Hi everyone, this is Sunette here in this soul video with Leila.
Hi.
And Leila is joining us because we're going to be walking a process with the word creation, more specifically self-creation. And Leila here has had a very interesting and impactful life experience that in itself assisted and supported her with understanding who she is when it comes to self-creation. So Leila, share with us what happened in your life. What was the turning point where within and through that event you were unexpectedly set off down a path of self-creation?
Well, the big event was the birth of my son Caesar, where suddenly one night as he was born, my whole life was turned upside down, where I started a new life, a new way of living, and everything of my old life, my old self, suddenly in one moment was all gone. And now I had to redefine and recreate who I am and who I want to be as a mother in relation to my child, where that change is so complete, it takes over every aspect of your life. That really pushed that point of you have to recreate yourself.
All right, so here from this moment or this experience that Leila had with the birth of her son, the turning point there, what you've mentioned, was that you couldn't have anything of your old self, your old life, and not only that, but this is your first son. Yeah. So you do not yet know who you are or how you're going to be or what exactly really is going to change within yourself and your life. So this is such an awesome example of what self-creation is about, because all you had was you. And knowing in a way what you couldn't be and what you couldn't have anymore. So now it's about, okay, what do I need? What can I have? What can I create? Who can I become? So another question within this defining process, when you realized that, was it easy for you initially to kind of, let go of your old self, your old life, and really completely step into this new, I'm a mother?
It wasn't easy. With whole pregnancy and birthing, there's this whole mention of the baby blues. Like every mother as a child gets born goes through a baby blues where they think it's related to the hormonal change, because suddenly the baby's out of your body, the hormones drop, and you go into kind of like a depression thing. But what I realized is that not so much about the hormones, but it's kind of like a process of mourning sets in, because now you have this baby, you have this child, and you can already see oh God, my life is changing completely. And it's not like I can suddenly put a pause or a hold on being a mother. Like the baby's there and he's going to be there. And you can already kind of see that happening, where it takes a while to grasp the implications of what has just happened, and kind of seeing how everything's going to change and how you have to kind of mourn the loss of your old self. Okay. and be okay with that, to kind of transition into the new.
Yes, and that's very important. Very cool that you just said transition into the new, because, creation can only happen if you let go of the old and the new can step forth.
Yeah.
There's also that saying, for the new to be born, the old must pass, or for the new to come through, something in those lines. But within this also, what we can take from this so far is that self-creation also is, we kind of tend to create this idea or perception that to create myself, I'm going to change absolutely nothing of who I was or how I was in my old life or in the past is going to remain with me. But surely, if you have a look, there was possibly still a lot of yourself.
Yeah, because also before I had my child, there were a lot of expressions and things I had to develop within myself, which I needed to develop in the way things previously played out, in terms of my job, creating consistency, discipline. There were very specific expressions I had to develop for myself in that situation. So it wasn't that I'm not going to give up on all those things, but I have to expand my toolkit to be able to handle this new situation. So it's not like, my old self dies and, you just throw it all away, but you have to expand and add on and also use what you've learned before and bring it into the new with you.
Yes. So everyone, that's also a very important point. Because, I mean, even within yourself, I'm sure, just to also show the viewers a point that could possibly exist in the mind is where a part of yourself does create that idea or thinking that, I'm not going to be the same, nothing is going to be the same, everything is going to be different. But when you realize that, yes, you're transitioning from an old life, an old self, to a new life, a new self with, for example, a baby, a child, that in that transitioning, as she's mentioned, a lot of who you were as a person individually is here within you, with you. You don't lose it. If anything, would you say that in this transition phase, those aspects of you of, for example, discipline, responsibility, time management, career, studying, all of that, became a lot more expansive, specified, detailed, where you, as you said, you're just adding more into, because there's more that's come into your life. So more can be added into you, who you are as a person.
And also I think that for the first time I realized how much of how I previously did things and how I created things, how much it actually came from me. Because previously, I could say, it's from my environment, it's the people, it's everything around me that kind of created it for me. But then when you're put in a situation with a baby where it's just you and the baby and all you have is you and everything else is just not there for a moment, you really see how it's a part of you and you actually created that. And just like you created those things, you can now create something new as well.
Fascinating. All right. So here, just to expand on that point that Leila shared, was, for her, this is also something that everyone could also relate to, which is that we sometimes forget, that who we are and where we are and what we're doing and who's in our life. A lot of our doings in our relationships is based on our creation, how we approach everything and everyone, our decision in who we are in thought, word, and deed. So, so with self-creation comes self-responsibility, and you're going to have to kind of go through the ups and downs of even making mistakes in your self-creation process. So as much as you are alone in your process of self-creation, as equally as much you can reflect on everything and everyone that's in your surroundings. So, for example, another question I have is, when you realized, okay, I've got to create myself as, a mother, as my relationship with my child, but at the same time, I'll still keep my sense of self, my individuality. In that creation process, did you sometimes make mistakes, or make mistakes in the sense of not create yourself into the way that you would have liked to? But then through those mistakes, you had other people who assisted and supported you.
Yeah, I made many mistakes where, upon reflection, I saw, oh God, I'm doing all the things I told myself I'd never do. Why am I doing those things? Where you have to really slow down, where you look at what's happening, who you are within it, to slow down. So that's one of the things you really have to learn with a child, is to slow down and really track your steps back. Because so often when something happens with a child, where they're throwing a tantrum or they have a meltdown, it's almost never about the situation that happened just now. It's about small things that happened and accumulated for that moment to happen and accumulate, and you have the whole flailing and things, where you have to really practice that, establishing that awareness and connection and attunement with your child every step, every moment, to prevent those types of situations, because it's always in the small moments that lead up to it.
Yeah. So there was a process of self-creation in how to understand tantrums, who I am within it, how to direct it most effectively. What is my relationship with my child? Yeah. Because
I saw in the beginning, I was very much just reacting to the surface behavior that was happening. Where I didn't know how to direct it, because I also didn't understand what was happening. And then I look, okay, why am I not understanding what is happening? It's because, I wasn't really aware in everything that happened before.
That led up to that moment.
So then, because okay, now you have to push yourself to become more aware and slow down and really see how these things play out. Like it's not like you can be a mother some moments and then stop in other moments. It's a constant thing, constant checking, constantly being aware of yourself, being aware of the child.
So wow, I mean, within this, what's also opening up here, it is quite extraordinary, is self-creation is a constant process. And even though for Leila, for example, it started with her son, from that moment it was like the more, shall we say, self-creation became more of a process that you had to walk with awareness. Where, like in the past, you had more a general sense of yourself already, and you had things happening here or there, but your life and yourself was the same day in and day out. And now here comes a son, and you are faced with that question, who am I? And not only overall, it's like you can't, for example, decide, okay, I'm going to be this person, this type of mother, from the get-go. You kind of have to learn how to create and shape yourself and live yourself into that role through moments.
Yeah.
So would you say it's those moments that matter the most?
Oh, definitely.
Within your initial, did you have an initial decision of a relationship with your son, with yourself as a mother that you do want to create? Just as like a foundation that you would go back to, or a baseline or reference every now and then when you feel like, you kind of got lost.
Well, it's kind of like at the moment of birth, there was one moment where he kind of opened his eyes and he looked at me, and I could just feel that connection inside me, and I was like, I really enjoyed that so much. And I'm like, that connection point, that's what I keep going to. Am I coming from a place of connection? Am I feeling disconnected? Is there like a space in between us, or are we on the same level?
Nice. All right, because that's also quite important in your creation process. And we're going to, in the next video, have a look at, also together with Leila, how we can make the process that she's walked with self-creation, and a journey that she's still very much walking as her child is growing up. But it's like he's a mirror of you in a way, in the sense that as he's growing, you're growing in your process of self-creation on so many levels as an individual and also as a mother. But in the next video, we'll have a look at how we can take this example through to everyone and anything, in your everyday life processes that you face, changes in your relationships, your career, job, money, environment, country, having to move, things like that, where there is such a significant change that happens where you, in a way, have to start that process of creating yourself. And self-creation is about self-change, and self-change is about growing, expanding, learning, living. But this whole process, assisting and supporting with a question that we've been asked in relation to what is creation? What is self-creation really about? And it was interesting that there also possibly a moment come up within you where you thought, what? Creation, self-creation, yes, this process is going to be challenging and difficult, but not so much. Did you have an initial idea in relation to the word?
I suppose initially it's kind of like the word creation. It's like this big out there word, but if you actually look at it, it's something we naturally already do, but we're not really aware of when we create and how we create. And I think once you reflect back on your life where you have changed and you have pushed yourself to better yourself, just even in small moments, how even that small moment is a point of creation, then you realize, it's not actually such big of a hoo-ha, as what you make it to be.
Yes. So I'd like to add on to that as well, is that for me also, when I looked at self-creation, the word, it's like initially like, wow, it's going to be awesome, I'm going to create myself, it's going to be amazing. But mostly, interestingly enough, self-creation happens through mistakes, the ups and downs, the smallest of moments that seem so insignificant, but they can have such an impact on how you see yourself, view yourself, and live in thought, word, and deed. So this is what Leila and I will leave you with for this video. We'd like you to have a look at is asking yourself, who am I in relation to the word creation and self-creation? And start defining your relationship with those words. And from there, also maybe start with the redefining. Like, how would you redefine self-creation? How can you live self-creation with more awareness in your relationships, your everyday life moments, even the smallest of moments where you can see sometimes, your thoughts are coming or your reactions are coming, and you just take that in-breath and out-breath and you slow down. Because this is also maybe a nice example we can start off with in the previous, in the next video, where what you can share is, I'm sure, in the beginning stages with your son, that there are so many thought patterns, reaction patterns that you must have faced within you, and how those little moments of stopping it and changing it every single time that you become aware of it eventually led to your self-creation of...
And also the big surprise that comes with in changing those small points, how big an effect it actually has on how you either make things more difficult or more easy for yourself and for your child.
In those moments and also over time. Because right now, if you get to know Leila, she's quite stable, standing, strong and independent. And it's been extraordinary to walk a process with her in this journey of self-creation.
Thanks.
So maybe also a nice moment for you to reflect and look back on how much you've changed. Because we sometimes forget that, though.
Oh, yeah.
We get so stuck in who we are and how we are and what we're experiencing right now. We don't look back, reflect on all our moments of change. It's also what Leila mentioned. So take that with you too. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for joining Leila and I. Leila, any last words?
No, I'm good for the next one.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next video.